Thank you, Alan, for your talk. It was really good. The title of my talk is "There is nothing wrong with me, but something happened to me." And I know this is a bold statement, really, from a person that has been diagnosed with bipolar for over 20 years. But this is how I see myself today. My story really is the story of a person that came into the psychiatric system at a time when diagnosis was the only mean to, how do you say it, see what's wrong with you. My life story did not matter in that, not content at that time. Everything was explained by my diagnosis. I'm a bit nervous. I'm not used to speaking by looking at a paper, but usually I do it just. So it's going to be okay. My mother, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. My mother was only 16 when I was born. So, and by the age of 22, she had 2 children, single mom with two kids. I was raised in poverty and difficult social environment. I was bullied in school from the day I stepped into the school, and that went on for a long time. It really didn't stop until I was powerful enough and aggressive enough to stop, to make them stop. And then I was probably about 12 or 13 years of age. I was sexually abused as a child and also as a teenager. And in my case, I started using drugs and alcohol at the age of 12 or 13 too. I was able to finish school and I went to college, but I didn't function in that environment, so I was kicked out after just 3 months. And from the age of 16 to 25, I was working. I thought at the time that my life was going quite well, but all that time I was working for about 9 years, from 16 to 25, as I said. And all that time I was using alcohol a lot to keep my problems down, to keep the symptoms down. Because I had been facing problems from early age, and my way was using drugs and alcohol. When I was about 25, I collapsed and I went into rehab. And I thought that was going to be the way forward for me, the cure. Quit drinking, get sober, get my life together. But that really was not the case in my case. It got worse. It was about a year that I went in and out of rehab, not because I was drinking again, but because my symptoms came more aggressive when I stopped drinking. So I had difficult mood swings, I was getting manic and getting depressed in between. So I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at the rehab. And my journey into the psychiatric system really began. I started as an outpatient in a group therapy, and I was put on medication. And there was a period of 5 years that really, what I personally call hell for me, because nothing worked. The group therapy didn't work, the medication didn't work, and I really my symptoms got worse all the time. So the only solution was really more medication. And I was thinking about it when I was thinking about what I was going to say earlier on, that my life story never came up, my situation never came up, my social background was not talked about, really. And for a 5-year period, I was hospitalized for 13 times, and of those 5 years, I spent about 3.5 years in a hospital. In those 5 years, I was put on 20 different types of psychiatric drugs, and at one point I was taking about 7 at the same time. And I didn't get any results. I didn't recover. I didn't get nowhere, really. So it came to a point in my life, I was 30 at that time, it was 1997, that I was put through ETC, electric shock therapy, and that didn't work either in my case. So there was a meeting with the doctor and my family, and I can always recall what the doctor said. He said to me that prisons and hospitals of this world are full of people like me, or like you, he said. You have a chronic disease, you will never be normal, you have to be on drugs all your life, and it's best for you not to do anything. Just accept it and try to be, live your life under those circumstances. And I thought to myself, and at the same meeting, the doctor asked my mother to sign a legal document that would take away my own control of my life. And they were going to put me up in Arnarholt, which was an asylum, really, up in Kjalarnes, which is outskirts of Reykjavik. And I thought at that time that I was 30 years old, and I was being told that my life really was over. I did not have any possibility of leading a normal life. And I made the decision at that time that I would do anything to get out of that. I would do what I needed to do to get better, to get alive. And when I've been thinking about this later on, I realized that I was lucky. I was really, really lucky in many aspects. I was lucky that my mother didn't sign those papers. I was lucky that I was assigned to a new outpatient facility that was starting. And I was really lucky that I was allowed to have the time that I needed to get well. I was allowed to be there for 3 years. And I used that time well. I had to reconstruct my life totally from beginning, really. I had to learn to think again in a different way. I had to create a routine. I had to find out what was damaging for me in my life and change it. And I did it. I was out of the system really in the year 2000, that's 16 years ago. And I have been off medication for 13 years. It isn't like life stops when you get out of psychiatric hospitals. Life keeps on. You get all the highs and lows. So I learned to treat, or I created tools for myself to be able to deal with life problems. There are a lot of problems in life for every person that lives. So I had to be able to control my life. I have tendency, I have my symptoms still. I have tendency to go into mania, and I get depressed. But I know how to treat it. I know what to do. And that has worked really well for me for the last years. My views on mental health have changed really dramatically over the last few years. I was so lucky to be able to go to Boston on a film festival a few years ago. And when I came there, I came with the belief that I had a brain disease, a chemical imbalance in my brain that I was lucky enough to be able to control. And when I left that film festival, I had a totally different idea. I saw a documentary about a study done in the US called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experience. And for me, that explained totally why my life went as it was. Because there are 10 questions in the original ACE study, and for me, I could answer 9 of them positively. So I couldn't go any other way than I did. I came to believe, and I do believe, that my condition was not a disease or a medical condition, really. It was a person meeting my personal reactions to how do you say it, unhealthy situation. And I believe that we are, as a society, as a country, we are doing things in the wrong way today. We are medicating human life. We are putting a label on human suffering. Nobody ever is hopeless. Everybody has hope. And everybody can recover, really. I think so. It's just about how we help them to do that. And we have to be able to sustain people that are going through crisis in their life and meet them on equal grounds, so that we can help them to be themselves, but also help them to get a good life. I think everybody can do and is entitled to in reality. But time's up, so I want to thank you. It was quite stressful, but nice. Thank you.